Okay, that's enough of that. Anyways, like I just said, I'm Trick. I'm an artist and video maker, and like every kid in the 90s, I was a fan of Pokemon. But unlike everything else I liked as a kid that either faded into obscurity or was ruined by shitty Hollywood cash grabs, Pokemon is stronger than ever, and I was curious as to why that was. So to get some insight into the Pokemon fandom, and to make a video that was good for the algorithm, I got my friends Warren and Brandon on a Discord call, and we had a great, almost 2 hour conversation. And that's where the problems happen. See, I am a broke bitch that doesn't have internet at my house, and that makes it a real pain in the ass to record a Discord call. And even though I was able to MacGyver a way to do it, the quality was absolute ass, especially on my end where the best parts of my audio sound like recordings of Ghost. So what started as a fun little video of me and my friends talking about Pokemon became a way bigger project than I thought I would, and the last few months has been me trying to figure out how to make this thing work. The truth is, I'm still kind of learning how to make videos. So this is me tapping out because I just want to move on from this video. Here are all the best bits from our conversation with some visuals in the background. I would like to thank Brandon and Warren for helping me out with this video. It was really fun learning about a fandom that I pretty much don't have any experience with, and I hope they'll do another slightly less scuffed one in the future. Brandon streams on Twitch under the name Acoustic, and while Warren is the one who most often touches grass, you can find him on Blue Sky. Now let's get on with the video.
It is funny because I think Gen 2 is my favorite. I just love Gen 2, but I have a very special love with Pokemon Silver, the Game Boy game, so...
Yeah. Gen 2 is definitely my favorite, but I feel like if I ever replayed it, it would change.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm viewing it through rose-tinted glasses, but I love it so much.
Exactly. It's got to be buried in the memory for a reason. Yeah, so... like in Red, you just had type matchings and stuff and all that, but it started out where certain types were locked into certain attack. So you have like regular physical attacks, then you have like special attacks or I don't know. We'll just go with magic because it's easier to say. And that went on for about 3 generations. Generation 3, I think, is when they first introduced abilities
Sounds
and
right.
natures and stuff. And then, like, Gen 4, I think the physical special split happened. So, like, Fire Punch was no longer like a magic move. It was proper physical attack. And then, pretty much, most games after that either had lineup changes or just one type of gimmick that they had.
Yeah,
like
Gen 6 and on were the gimmick game. The difference between Sword and Shield going into Scarlet and Violet, Gen 8 to 9, was really, really prevalent when you realize that Legends Arceus was released right in between then. Because I think this is probably a good segue to Legends Arceus and how that game succeeded, where I think Scarlet and Violet kind of failed.
Yeah, like, because I had the fortune of playing Sword and Shield and then Scarlet Violet, or at least Scarlet, so Sword and then Scarlet. And I hadn't played Legends Arceus in between them, so I got spoiled and played it after them, and I was like, why wasn't it like this the whole time?
Yeah, it's crazy because you look... So, for Derek's transparency here, since I know he's not super familiar, the difference between, honestly, moving from Gen 7 with Sun and Moon into Gen 8 with Sword and Shield was the fact that we had this big area called the Wild Area. And that allowed Pokemon to be seen, and you could run up to them and interact with them, not run into the wild grass and get a random encounter and you don't know what it is. The Wild Area allowed you to see what you were about to encounter. But it was only in a certain area of the game. The rest of the game had the random encounters. So it was kind of held back in that regard. Then you get Legends Arceus, which comes out, and the whole game is a wild area. And you're fighting, not only are you trying to avoid the attacks of the Pokemon, because they are wild and this is ancient times, and you don't really have the same technology that you did back then, or that you do in the modern Pokemon game. You have to dodge roll, you have to throw things at these boss Pokemon in order to wear them down. You might not be able to catch it because it's too strong, so you might even have to run away. It was a lot more of almost like it changed the gameplay loop entirely. for the better, because it made things so much more thrilling and kind of like what we imagined Pokemon battles to be when we were kids versus, just turn-based battling. But then they go to Scarlet and Violet, and you can see all the Pokemon you're about to encounter, but it's back to the turn-based stuff. And so it was huge disappointment, I think, for people who were... I know they were worked on by two different teams, but it was a big disappointment between those who had played Legends Arceus and then went to Scarlet and Violet. It was such a drastic change back to the main formula that people were pretty disappointed.
Oh, to add on to that, I think one of the things that Scarlet and Violet actually did really well was the open-ended. You could tackle the gyms and the I'm going to call them strongholds in any order you wanted. And
yeah, that's absolutely one of like the best things Scarlet Violet did. Not to mention the music. Music was banging.
Oh yeah, yup. Also, something that's not really chatted about often is Scarlet actually had it. It was one of the better, because it was a more grounded Pokemon story. It was one of the ones that like got me a little bit.
Yeah, it was really good. And there's for those of you who haven't played Scarlet and Violet, there is a twist that's all you're getting. The twist at the end was huge and really well done.
Yeah, agreed. It depends on the game, really. Like
it really does.
Like, I think Sun and Moon had a good one, good story in that. I think that Pokemon Silver, Gold, Crystal, all those were good. But I could be coloring that with my memory, so who knows?
I think if we're diving into stories, I want to talk a little bit about Gen 6, because that's where that also kind of leads into Legends ZA, because we know it's taking place in Kalos, which is X and Y's thing. It's apparently going to be just Lumio City, which is a really interesting concept, and the fact that you're just sitting here in the city and that's your map. I really am curious about how they're going to pull that off. But Kalos, X and Y, Gen 6, probably one of the best stories with the most missed opportunities. There was so much they could have done with X and Y, where they mentioned the 1,000-Year War, where they mentioned that AZ has been looking for his Floette for ages, and they do nothing with it after the game is over. Where you get Lysander and his whole like conquest about wiping out the earth to make it prettier. It's just a whole like thing that it feels like it's never fully realized. It feels like it's all these story beats that would be great if they had more development behind them. So I'm kind of really hoping that ZA kind of does that. But there were so like I sit here and I talk about 1,000-Year War, and immediately you're thinking, are you sure you're talking about Pokemon? It's like it's all of a sudden it's like something that's really interesting, and they just do nothing with it.
Yeah. Now that you're mentioned, like it's all coming back to me with because I played X, and I remember thinking thinking at least some of that, because it was really good and captivating, but it, like you said, it just kind of went nowhere with it.
Exactly. Very sad.
I gotta say, Gen 5 story not great, but N.
Yeah. Characters made the story bearable, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I am the Prince of Pokemon. Prince of Team Plasma.
I never gave him a voice in my head, but that fits so perfectly.
Come, ride this Ferris wheel with me. Let me tell you.
You know what? He did have some horny energy to him.
I refer to all Pokemon as my friends.
I will say Gen 5 does have the distinction of literally being frames away from murdering the main.
What?
Because the main antagonist, when he has Kyurem with him, he's about to use Glaciate on you, and if N doesn't show up, you're dead.
Oh my god! I forgot about that!
Like, literally seconds away from using Glaciate on you, and, like, the icicles are circling you. Literally, if N doesn't come down, like, you're done. Like, you have no it's not a battle. He just says, Kyurem, use Glaciate, and it just starts circling your sprite. and you're like, uh-oh.
In the games, no, but like, there's like
I
one or
think-
two instances, like in Sword and Shield, there's this sorry for the spoilers, but there's this old lady gym trainer who's retiring, and so she has like one of the kids who's going through the Elite Four, but doesn't necessarily make it. Like, she's like starts training him to become a gym leader.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I think it's kind of like an apprenticeship kind of thing. But that probably depends on the region.
Yeah.
Because you look at even Gen 1 and Gen 2, where you have Koga and Janine? Is that her name? Where it's Koga's daughter that takes over the gym for him after during Gen 2.
Yeah, because Koga becomes one of the Elite Four.
Right.
If I had to wager a guess, and this is only speculation. I'm guessing that Brock raises his brothers and sisters right, and his parents just like left. I'm guessing his dad probably owned the gym, and then he was just like, they were just like deuces, and then he was like, well, what the? And then now he's got to pay bills, but that doesn't even like work out for him because he leaves on an adventure. Like, what happens to the gym?
Like, the whole thing about the anime is the fact that Brock and Misty leave their gym to go travel with Ash. What if anyone else wants to challenge the Elite Four? They are out of luck. Like,
yeah,
they don't get to challenge them versus second gym.
I mean, with Misty, she had her. Didn't she have like a sister or two?
He had the
So, like-
three older sisters.
Okay,
Oh,
so
jeez.
yeah, so I could understand her like taking off, but like Brock, I don't know if his siblings were.
fucked over every other trainer in the region by just healing a gym leader.
And still never won, or still never beat the Elite Four.
It's funny because
Never
doesn't
became-
he do that in? Like I said, I'm not an anime fan, but I'm pretty sure he does that in the Kalos anime too. I remember seeing the electric type gym leader just walking around with Ash and a lot of the blonde
It
haired
could be.
boy with the glasses. Good
Knowledge.
lord. What is Ash doing? Trying to make sure everyone else can't challenge the champion. And it
Well,
takes
and
him 30 plus years to do it. I think the saturation is kind of a double-edged sword because you get the vocal minority that yell about everything and they make you want to hate it. But you get also like the good, like you get the Legend of Arceus, kind of like where they branch off, try something new because they have this such like a foothold in the industry that they have the ability to branch off and try something new, and it just is super successful. You get the Detective Pikachu, where I have seen it. It was a great movie. I loved it. I don't think they should make a second one because I think it would be oversaturated, but I think the movie was great. And so you get all these sort of like different new ideas that kind of inject the new life into the franchise as a whole. But then you talk about Pokemon Go, during when it came out, it was huge. And then it just died. Like, it's not nearly as popular anymore. So you have things like that where it just kind of like keeps going far past its expiration date, which can be problematic. And it might take resources away. I'm not a business major. I don't know how business works. But you would think it might start taking resources away from things that are good. So it can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think that's all. I agree with that completely. That's the only reason I've heard of fighting Foodons, because of Drawfee. Isn't there like a meatball sandwich called spaghetti about it or some shit like that?
Are you kidding me? Bro, I wish I had even a modicum of the fucking humor whoever made that up with. Like, absolute quit.
And you know what?
Oh,
Makes
the
me want to
chicken
try
nugget
either a
delicious.
Toros or a Miltank steak.
Because if they don't loot that, they're going to loot the trash bag, and no one wants that.
You know
Including the
what?
Trash bag.
Kind of curious now.
Oh no, a Pokemon evolved in a Pokemon anime. Woo!
I think he cut out a little bit there.
I dropped my microphone.
And let me tell you, as part of a competitive scene during Gen 6,
Megas fucking sucked.